The night I realized I'd been replaced didn't start with a text message, lipstick, or some late-night excuse. It started with a place card, a single piece of thick ivory paper that told me exactly where I ranked in my own marriage. Before I tell you what was written on it and what I did next, subscribe if you're into real relationship stories where the truth isn't screamed, it's uncovered. Most people watch and leave, but subscribing helps this channel keep bringing you stories like this. Now, let me take you back to the moment my stomach turned cold. My wife Morgan had been busy for weeks, the kind of busy that smells like perfume and pressure. Not romantic perfume, corporate perfume. Conference calls, new dresses that still had tags on them, a calendar suddenly guarded like it was classified. She'd made partner at her firm. That was the headline everyone was supposed to clap for. Morgan worked at a mid-sized corporate law firm in a downtown glass tower. The kind of place where the lobby smells like money and the elevators feel like quiet judgment. I'd spent 16 years running a small construction company, me and a handful of guys who could frame a wall straight without needing a committee meeting. My business wasn't glamorous, but it was real. It paid our mortgage, paid for our daughter's braces, paid for the vacations Morgan posted about like she personally invented sunsets. We'd been married 19 years, together 21 if you count the year we dated, and told ourselves we were different from everyone else. Her parents, Harold and Diane, never hid what they thought of me. They didn't insult me directly. That would have required acknowledging me long enough to form words. They did something cleaner. They spoke around me like I was a chair in the room. Morgan always smoothed it over. They're old school. They just don't know you. They'll come around. They never did. They just got better at smiling while they didn't. The partner announcement event was scheduled for a Friday night at a private club overlooking the river. Morgan told me about it like it was a weather update. It's a firm thing, she said, brushing her hair in the mirror. Speeches, photos, donors, clients. You'd hate it. I laughed because that was easier than admitting it stung. I'm still your husband, I said. I can survive chicken breast and small talk. She paused, lipstick halfway to her mouth. I'll see what the seating looks like, she said. Not yes, not no. Just a sentence that sounded like a door clicking softly shut. The next day, I found the invitation by accident. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for the registration in her glove box because my truck needed inspection. And she'd mentioned she had the forms in her car. The envelope was wedged between a stack of legal pads and a glossy folder with her firm's logo. Heavy paper, embossed lettering, the kind of invite that tries to make you feel grateful for being allowed into the room. It said, the firm requests the pleasure of your company in celebrating Morgan Bennett's election to partner. My eyes went straight to the details. 7 p.m., the Hawthorne Club. Dinner and remarks to follow. Then I saw the insert. The seating card. I don't know why I unfolded it. Maybe I was hoping to see my name and feel silly for ever doubting her. Maybe I wanted to reassure myself that despite everything, I still belonged beside her. Table 8, Morgan Bennett, Harold and Diane Sanderson, Ethan Cole. For a second, my brain didn't process the last name. It just registered the shape of it, the arrogance of it, the fact that it was printed like it had always been true. Ethan Cole, her ex, the man she dated before me, the man her parents still mention as if he were a war hero, the one who went places, the one who had a future, the one who wore suits that fit like they'd been poured onto him and shook hands like he was doing you a favor. I read the card again and again, like the letters might rearrange themselves into my name. They didn't. There were only 4 names for people at her table, the family unit, neatly curated. And the seat that should have had Daniel Bennett on it didn't exist. I stood in the driveway with the envelope in my hands, the paper trembling slightly because my fingers were suddenly numb. My throat felt tight. Not from anger yet. Something worse, recognition. Morgan walked out a minute later, heels clicking on the concrete. Phone pressed to her ear. She was smiling at something someone said on the other end. She looked expensive, polished, untouchable. When she saw me, her smile didn't vanish. It just got smaller, like she was turning down the volume. She ended the call quickly. Hey, she said brightly, you're home early. I held up the invitation. This came with the registration, apparently, I said, keeping my voice calm because I didn't trust what would happen if it cracked. Her eyes flicked to the insert. One glance. That's all it took. Her throat moved as she swallowed. "Oh," she said, "you found it." I waited. The air between us felt thick, like humidity before a storm. "My name isn't on it," I said. Morgan exhaled to her nose like she was preparing for a conversation she'd hoped to avoid. "Dan," she said. "It's complicated." "Is it?" I asked softly, "because it looks pretty simple." She stepped closer, lowering her voice like the neighbors might hear and judge her. "My parents are hosting a table," she said. "They wanted it a certain way." "A certain way," I repeated. "With Ethan?" Her eyes darted toward the street, then back to me. "Ethan's been around," she said. "He's consulting for the firm on a couple things. It's professional." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was familiar. The way people sprinkle the word professional over something rotten and expect it to smell like soap. "And I'm what?" I asked. "Not professional enough?" She pressed her lips together. That was her tell when. She knew the truth would hurt and she was deciding whether to admit it or dress it up. "Dan, this night is important," she said. "It's a lot of people. Clients, partners, donors. My parents are particular." "Particular about what?" I asked. "About who gets to sit beside their daughter while she's celebrated." Her cheeks flushed. "They think Ethan fits," she said. And then the words tumbled out like she'd been holding them in too long. "He speaks their language. He knows the world I'm in. Stop," I said quietly. Morgan blinked like she'd been slapped, even though I hadn't moved an inch. She tried again, softer. "You know I'm proud of you. You build your business from nothing." I nodded slowly. "Right. From nothing." There was a long pause. She reached out like she was going to touch my arm, then thought better of it. "I didn't want to fight before the event," she said. "I was going to talk to you after." I stared at her, and something inside me settled. Not rage, not heartbreak. Something steadier, like a decision being made without needing permission. "After," I echoed. "After you let your parents replace me at your table. After you smiled for photos and pretended it didn't matter." Her eyes glistened. "Dan," I folded the invitation and slid it back into the envelope carefully, like I was handling evidence. "What time is it?" I asked. She looked confused. "What? What time do you need to be there?" I repeated, calm as stone. 6:30, she said. "Photos first." "Great," I said. "Have a good night." Morgan frowned. "That's it?" I met her eyes. "That's it for today," I said. I walked past her toward the house, and she followed a step behind. "You're not coming?" she asked, voice rising slightly. I turned in the doorway. "Was I invited?" I asked. Silence. She didn't answer because she couldn't, and I didn't wait for her to find a lie that would sound kind. Upstairs, I went into our bedroom, opened the closet, and stared at the row of shirts I'd worn to weddings, funerals, parent-teacher nights, and every just smile family gathering her parents insisted on. I didn't grab a suit, I grabbed a folder, the thick blue folder I kept locked in my desk drawer downstairs. The one with the passwords to my business accounts, the bank statements, the contracts, the vendor list, the tax records, the stuff that wasn't romantic, but was real. The stuff that kept our life standing. Because if my wife's family had decided I didn't belong at her table, I needed to know what else they decided I didn't belong in. And I had a feeling the place card wasn't the beginning, it was the warning label. I sat at the kitchen table with that folder open, the invitation beside it like a challenge. My hands were steady now. My mind was clearer than it had been in months. The first thing I did wasn't yell. The first thing I did wasn't cry. I logged in, and what I saw in the activity history made my blood run cold all over again, because someone had been in my accounts late at night, pulling reports, downloading files, looking at numbers that only two people should have ever touched, me and my wife. That's when I realized something I wish I'd understood years earlier. You don't get erased from a table unless you're already being erased from the plan. And I wasn't about to finance my own replacement. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was pacing or shaking, but because my mind wouldn't stop lining things up one detail, clicking into another like teeth on a zipper. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. At 1:12 a.m., While Morgan slept upstairs, I sat alone at the kitchen table with my laptop open and the house lights off, scrolling through access logs. The accounting software showed activity after hours, multiple nights a week reports pulled between 9:30 and 11 p.m. Vendor pricing, client margins, forecast spreadsheets I hadn't touched in months. Whoever accessed them hadn't taken money directly. They'd taken something quieter, information. That's when a memory surfaced that hadn't made sense before. 6 months earlier, I'd lost a municipal contract I'd held for nearly a decade. The bid that beat me came in just under my pricing floor, close enough to hurt, but clean enough to look legal. I'd blamed inflation, competition, bad timing. Now I stared at the numbers on my screen and felt something colder than suspicion settle into place. I closed the laptop and sat back, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the wall clock. Morgan shifted upstairs, murmured something in her sleep. I wondered if she dreamed about me, or if I'd already been edited out there, too. The next morning, I didn't confront her. That would have been the old me, the man who thought honesty fixed everything. Instead, I made coffee, packed my lunch, and kissed her cheek like it was any other Thursday. She smiled, relieved. "We'll talk after tomorrow," she said, meaning the partner event. I nodded. "After," I said. At 9:77 a.m., I walked into the office of my accountant, Richard Hale. He'd been doing my books since I bought my first truck, back when my entire business fit into a single filing cabinet. Richard was 70, sharp-eyed, and allergic to drama. "I need a favor," I said once the door was closed. He raised an eyebrow. "You don't do favors. You do audits." "I need you to review joint account activity," I said. "Last 2 years, everything tied to Morgan and me." Richard leaned back slowly. "That's a wide net, Dan." "I know. What am I looking for?" "I'll know when you find it." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Give me 48 hours. Keep it quiet," I said. He didn't smile. "I always do. Back at the job site, I tried to focus on work. Concrete doesn't care about your marriage, neither do deadlines. But every time my phone buzzed, my chest tightened. Morgan texted twice, once to ask what tie she should wear, once to say her parents were flying in early. I didn't respond. That night, she came home late, buzzing with nervous energy, rehearsing names, complaining about seating charts like they were someone else's fault. Ethan's name came up casually, slipped into conversation like it belonged there. "He'll be at the pre-reception," she said. "Strictly professional." I nodded and watched her talk. Watched the way she didn't look at me when she said his name. I realized then that whatever line she'd crossed it a while ago. Friday morning, the call came. "Dan," Richard said, voice flat, "you need to come in." I was there in 15 minutes. The documents were spread across his desk, color-coded with little sticky tabs. Richard didn't waste time. 18 months ago, he said, tapping a page, there was an $85,000 withdrawal from your joint savings, marked as an investment. Signature matches yours. My stomach dropped. "I didn't sign that." "I know," he said. 6 months later, another 72. 3 months after that, 41. All to the same LLC. He slid the page toward me. "Cole Strategic Group. Ethan Cole." My hands went numb. "There's more," Richard said. "Your business accounts weren't drained, but reports were accessed, downloaded, shared. LADAR ports were accessed, downloaded, shared. Late hours, same IP range as your home network." I stared at the paperwork. Every line a confirmation of something I hadn't wanted to believe. "How much is left?" I asked. 39,000, he said. "She hit tax limits. Got careful." Careful. The word burned. I drove home in silence, pulled into the driveway, and sat there while the engine cooled. Morgan was already gone at the club, smiling, celebrated, sitting at a table where my name had never been printed. I didn't go inside right away. I called my lawyer instead. By the time Morgan came home that night, heels in hand, makeup slightly smudged from champagne and applause, the house was quiet. Too quiet. She set her purse down slowly. "Dan?" she called. I didn't answer. She walked into the kitchen and froze. My wedding ring sat on the table beside the folded invitation. Next to it was a single sheet of paper, not a letter, just a list of dates, amounts, and one name at the bottom, Ethan Cole. She sank into a chair, color draining from her face as understanding caught up to her ambition. Upstairs, a suitcase was gone. So was my laptop. So was my silence. Because while she'd been celebrating becoming partner, I'd already made my next move. And unlike her seating chart, this one had consequences. I wasn't trying to disappear. I was trying to regain oxygen. The hotel I checked into sat off the highway near the industrial park, the kind of place contractors use when a job runs long. No charm, no memories, just a bed, a desk, and silence that didn't ask questions. I slept for 4 hours straight, the heaviest sleep I'd had in weeks, then woke up to my phone vibrating itself off the nightstand. Morgan. I let it ring. Then again, then again. On the fourth call, I silenced it and rolled onto my back, staring at the ceiling like it might explain how a 19-year marriage could evaporate into a spreadsheet. By mid-morning, the shock had worn off and been replaced by something sharper. Focus. I met my lawyer, Marissa Clean, at 10. Mid-50s, calm voice, the kind of woman who didn't raise it because she never needed to. She reviewed the documents without commentary, flipping pages, occasionally making a note in the margin. This isn't just marital misconduct, she said finally. This is financial fraud. I know, I said. You have forged signatures, unauthorized transfers, and business interference, she continued. And that's before we even touch the personal relationship with Mr. Cole? Ethan, I said. His name is Ethan, she nodded. You want separation or divorce? Separation first, I said. I want to lock things down before she tries to rewrite history. Smart, she said. I want to lock things down before she tries to rewrite history. Smart, she said. File Monday. Until then, no contact unless necessary. Let her panic. She slid a folder across the table. One more thing, you need to assume she's already spoken to him. I already do. Marissa met my eyes. Then you need to be 2 steps ahead. By Sunday night, Morgan had left 12 voicemails. The tone shifted predictably. Confusion, anger, tears, bargaining, love, promises. I didn't listen to them in order. I didn't need to. I knew the script. I'd lived in it. The message that broke through came from an unfamiliar number. This is Diane. We need to talk like adults. Her mother. I stared at the screen, then set the phone down face up on the desk and watched it buzz itself quiet. For the first time, their approval didn't matter. They'd chosen their table. I was choosing my life. Monday morning, I filed. By noon, Morgan knew. She showed up at my office, unannounced, hair pulled back tight, eyes rimmed red, wearing the same confident blazer she used in court. The receptionist looked at me like she wanted permission to call security. It's fine, I said. Send her in. Morgan stood in the doorway like she was stepping into unfamiliar territory. You blindsided me, she said, voice controlled but trembling underneath. You blindsided me 18 months ago, I replied. She took a breath. Ethan and I didn't plan for this to happen like this. Did you plan for it to happen at all? I asked. Silence. That was my answer. It was supposed to be temporary, she said. An investment. He had ideas, connections. I thought you'd upgrade, I said calmly. And I wouldn't notice. Her jaw tightened. You're making this ugly. No, I said. You made it illegal. She flinched. You're talking to lawyers, she said. So are you. Her eyes searched my face. What do you want? I considered that. I want my business protected. I want my name separated from yours. And I want you to stop pretending this was an accident. She shook her head, tears spilling now. I didn't mean to hurt you. That's the problem, I said. You didn't mean to think about me at all. She left without another word. That afternoon, my project manager pulled me aside. We got an email from a competitor, he said. They're offering our guys higher rates. They know our contracts, our margins. I nodded slowly. Not anymore, I said, because that evening Marissa forwarded me something interesting, a background report on Ethan Cole. 2 years ago, a civil suit in another state, allegations of fraud. Settled quietly. NDA signed. Pattern emerging. I leaned back in the chair and exhaled. Morgan hadn't just cheated. She partnered with a man who specialized in taking other people's work and calling it strategy. The next call came from my daughter. Dad, she said softly, Mom's crying. Grandma says you're being cruel. I closed my eyes. What do you think? I think, she said carefully, That if Mom replaced you once, she would have done it again. I swallowed. I'm sorry you're in the middle. I was already there, she said. I just didn't know it. After we hung up, I looked around my temporary room. No photos, no shared history, just space. Morgan had believed the celebration was the peak, the applause, the photos, the perfect table. What she didn't understand was that while she was being congratulated, the ground under her was already shifting, and when it finished moving, nothing she stood on would be hers anymore. Because I wasn't angry. I was done. And done men don't shout. They document. They wait. And then they act. The collapse didn't come all at once. It never does. It came in phone calls that stopped getting returned, meetings that were suddenly rescheduled, and a quiet change in tone when people said Morgan's name. 2 weeks after I filed, Marissa called me just after sunrise. We have movement, she said. Ethan Cole's consulting contract with the firm had been terminated effective immediately. No explanation given. Just gone. That alone would have been inconvenient for him. What followed was devastating. A subpoena request landed on his LLC 2 days later. Discovery, financial records, client communications, transaction histories, the kind of paperwork that doesn't care how confident you sound in a conference room. When you build something on borrowed trust and stolen information, the paperwork always tells on you. Morgan called me that night from a blocked number. I answered, not because I wanted to hear her voice, but because I wanted her to hear mine without anger in it. They're saying I could be charged, she said. No greeting, no accusation, just fear, forgery, wire fraud. They're asking about intent. You forged my signature, I said. Intent was built in. I was trying to protect us, she whispered. I didn't raise my voice. You protected a man who would have let me drown and called it strategy. There was a long pause. I imagined her sitting somewhere unfamiliar, stripped of confidence, finally understanding the cost of choosing image over integrity. What do you want from me? She asked. I already took what I wanted, I said. My name, my business, my future. She cried then, real crying, not the performative kind. And for a moment I felt something close to pity. But pity doesn't rebuild trust, and it doesn't reverse choices. The settlement moved fast after that, faster than she expected. She signed everything without contest. The house, the accounts, full separation of assets, restitution scheduled. No appeal, no performance. Ethan wasn't as cooperative. The civil case exposed more than either of them realized. Prior settlements, similar patterns, different women. Same outcome. He called it consulting. Courts call it fraud. By the time sentencing came down, I wasn't in the room. I didn't need to be. Closure doesn't require a front row seat. 3 months later, I moved back into the house. Alone. Felt strange at first. Too quiet. Too clean. But silence has a way of becoming honest if you let it. My business stabilized. Contracts returned. Clients apologized. Some admitted they'd been approached with inside information and had wondered how it was possible. I didn't dwell on it. I rebuilt. My daughter came over for dinner one Sunday night and looked around like she was seeing the place for the first time. You're different, she said. I'm the same, I replied, just not pretending anymore. She smiled. I like this version better. So did I. A year after the partner event that erased me, I stood in my office reviewing plans for an expansion, new hires, new territory, clean books. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Congratulations on the growth. I hope you're well. I deleted it without responding, because here's the truth most people don't like to hear. Betrayal doesn't always announce itself with drama. Sometimes it shows up quietly with a seating chart and a smile. Sometimes the real insult isn't the affair, or the money, or the lies. It's the assumption that you'll accept being minimized. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't chase explanations. I stepped back, looked at the facts, and chose myself. And that's the moral of this story. Self-respect isn't loud. It doesn't need witnesses. It's the moment you stop funding your own erasure, when you realize that keeping everything else means letting go of the person who already let go of you. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt quietly replaced or underestimated, subscribe to the channel. These stories aren't about revenge. They're about clarity. And sometimes clarity is the most powerful ending there is.